Hi, everyone, and welcome to Exiger Nexus, where we talk about the hot topics our clients care about at the intersection of economic and national security. I'm Kody Gurfein, and I'm joined by Carrie Wibben, Brandon Daniels, and Bob Kolasky. And we're thrilled to be joined by Bob Kolasky for the first time on Nexus. So Bob is our new Senior Vice President for Critical Infrastructure and comes to us from the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, where he stood up and ran the National Risk Management Center for, 3 years, Bob?
So 3 years, 3+.
3 years. All right. So welcome, Bob. And then a massive congratulations to Brandon Daniels. Big news last week on being named CEO. So that will be official on May 21st. Really exciting. Congrats, Brandon. And it's been a very busy month here at Exiger. And I think across the industry, you have Supply Chain Integrity Month. Brandon, you spoke at NASA and Georgetown, I believe. Carrie, you were at INSA for the Software Supply Chain event. Bob, you've been doing all sorts of media. I've seen you on some podcasts, Cyberscoop. And then Exiger launched Supply Chain Explorer, which is super exciting. So that brings us to today, which is everyone's favorite holiday, National Supply Chain Day. So I thought we would just start off on a quick rapid fire round to get us started. How should we be celebrating National Supply Chain Day? And Brandon, let's start with you.
By the Ford F-150 Lightning.
All right, Bob.
I think, I take it from a corporate perspective and critical infrastructure perspective. It's a great day to know your supply chain. Make sure you know your supply chain and make sure you know who has influence on how you pick your supply chain and on your suppliers so that you're not introducing risk into your system by doing business with suppliers who don't have good practices.
All right, we'll keep that in mind. And then Carrie.
I love National Supply Chain Day. It is one of my favorite holidays. My other favorite holiday is Halloween, but also Memorial Day, because I love summer. So I'm thinking about, I do a party every year, and what will be on the grocery store shelves for my party, and how early do I have to get hot dogs and watermelon so that I don't actually have no food for my party. So that's a delicate balance, as you know. So that's what's on my mind today.
Because hot dogs last forever, watermelons do not.
So I think it sounds like you have some busy plans this weekend at the grocery store. Now let's turn to what we should be thinking in the broader picture, right? So what does this focus on supply chain mean moving forward, really, and what should we be talking about with our clients? What are we talking about with our clients? What are we seeing across the public and private sector? Maybe Carrie, let's start with you and focus on government.
Yeah, so, the event, the Intelligence and National Security Alliance event that I was able to kick off on Monday, is it Monday? Whatever day, this week was like a very long week, but it was earlier this week. And it was really fantastic because it was so content rich. And so I thought I'd talk about just, again, we make a lot of assumptions that folks are tracking all the things going on, all the guidance going on, coming out of the White House and the National Counterintelligence and Security Center. So I thought I'd pick up on a couple themes from the event that I thought were really just powerful and certainly relevant. It was focused on software supply chain and, started by just recognizing, obviously, the world has changed. 20 years ago, supply chain threats would have never even met the top 10 list, but it's now one of the top 5 pillars of the National Counterintelligence Strategy. The theme was sort of fortify the chain, and specifically the software supply chain. Obviously, everyone knows software provides linkage to all digital infrastructure. It's really, the core and the backbone of every aspect of American life. It's really something that, from an adversarial targeting standpoint, especially with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, it's something that we are struggling with right now, and there's a constant barrage of attacks, and probably more to come. So. The first rule of espionage is identifying and demonstrating the intentions of your foreign adversaries, which is really tough in the cyber domain because our adversaries can so easily hide. So in the cybersecurity fight, it really starts with knowing what software is in your infrastructure. And that's why one of many reasons why I'm so excited about our brand new product launch, Supply Chain Explorer, as this is what it's specifically designed to do, automatically at your fingertips and instantaneously, and it's a good feeling to know that really we are still absolutely part of the fight. It has to be a public-private partnership, or we're never going to actually meaningfully mitigate these threats, and that we're able to bring such timely and necessary solutions to the cyber domain, really the cyber domain front lines. The other theme was information sharing, of really specifically of supply chain threat information, which is so fundamental and needs to be improved, not just across the federal government where it's hard enough, but really into the private sector and specifically the critical infrastructure sectors, because they're the ones that need to defend, right? The critical infrastructure private sector defenders own and operate 80% of our critical infrastructure. And so we have to enable this type of information sharing very broadly. One way that we at Exiger do that is by ensuring that our customers across the government, across large common ecosystems, really can use and share our threat information that our platform produces in a very unlimited way. And that's so powerful. And as all of you know, very intentional. Chris Inglis recently from the White House perspective, he's the cyber director, said that government really is in a supporting role to industry, to the network defenders out there, to the critical infrastructure sectors, owners and operators. And government has a responsibility to get them timely, accurate, and actionable threat information so that they can actually mount a solid defense. So, Bob, I would love to hear your perspective here, especially. A big theme and area of emphasis was the threat awareness briefings, classified briefings. It's something I did at DCSA when I was the deputy director of the Defense Counterintelligence Security Agency. I did threat briefings to cleared industry regularly. But FBI and CISA, I think, are really ramping up those initiatives to make sure that that threat information is getting out there. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that, obviously probably being the one that led that initiative for CISA and those types of briefings personally.
Yeah, Carrie, that's great. And I think that connects to sort of why I'm excited to have joined Exiger too, because the threat briefings that CISA and the FBI are doing right now are to demonstrate and to show what's going on in Ukraine and what could be going on right now with Russian activity and Russian spillover activity that could present a risk to U.S. critical infrastructure. CISA is using the phrase shields up. I think we should all endorse shields up. What I'm really interested in on top of that, however, is in this where Exiger comes in, turning the threat information into risk information. And that goes back to sort of what I said at the beginning. There's a threat out there. That threat only becomes risk to the extent that that threat manifests in your networks. That threat manifests in the functions that critical infrastructure businesses are doing. And so you have to know your networks. You have to know your functions. And what our tools allow to happen, what Supply Chain Explorer really adds value into is knowing what software, giving you visibility about what software's in your system, what code's in that software, other aspects of who you're doing business with, and does the threat information and knowledge of your supply chain introduce risk into your systems? And that's what you need to know, because it's when there is risk in your supply chains that you need to have a threshold as a company to take action to manage that risk. And Ukraine and the conflict going on right now is an unfortunate use case where there's heightened threat, which means there can be heightened risk, but the good news is you can mitigate risk. I'm new to learning all this about Supply Chain Explorer, and I know Brandon, you were sort of at the lead at conceptualizing a lot of this. I'll turn it over to you and let you end with kind of tell us about Supply Chain Explorer and how that meets the current moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that that we've been talking a lot about, Bob, and when you were at CISA and Carrie, as you were creating Deliver Uncompromised, you both were looking at was that this is a hybrid issue. It's not a singular risk or fault line. There's actually a series of fault lines that are all actually interconnected, and one trips the other. And I think we're starting to see that in the consumer markets, right? So a lot of our clients that were saying, oh, well, we're interested in Supply Chain Explorer, but shipping lines are starting to ease. Port, wait times are starting to drop, everywhere from LA to Newark to Taiwan. The logistics are starting to essentially ease in terms of disruption. The second that happens, China locks down. And we're reminded, oh my gosh, we're relying and dependent on China for so much of our rare earth materials. We're relying on and dependent on China for so much of our fabricated metals, especially with Russia out of the picture right now. Essentially, at war with Ukraine, and more importantly, really responsible for atrocities in Ukraine, right? And so, this isn't one thing. This isn't just shipping and ports. This isn't just dynamics of getting people into, trucks to ship things across the country. There are substantial geopolitical issues that could disrupt our supply chain. We saw the Ford, and this is why I said the Ford F-150 Lightning at the beginning of the session. We saw the Ford F-150 Lightning, which has been hotly awaited by the market, is starting to roll off the line. They've got their first truck coming off the line, but they're going to have significant supply chain issues because aluminum, nickel, these lithium ion batteries, the things that we need in order to make sure that Ford F-150 is moving into the future of alternative energy, are the same things that we need for Javelins and Stingers. I mean, there is a supply chain bottleneck here when it comes to rare earth materials. And again, that's just one of a panoply of different issues that face the government, they face the corporates, and they face the consumers and citizenry that they serve. And so Supply Chain Explorer is really our effort to get the fight out to our corporate and federal agency customers to help them try to navigate and resolve some of these issues.
So what I'm hearing here, I love Bob, by the way, I'm going to steal this for marketing, turning threat information into risk information. I'm hearing we all have to get in a Ford. We're going to take the Exiger supply chain as swag that Brandon seems to have in his house, and we're going to drive to Carrie's Memorial Day party, where there will be a lot of food, and I will be wearing my, it's not supply chain, but it's a chain, so I think it counts. And that's my contribution. So anyway, this was a great conversation. So happy to have you on it for the first time, Bob, and I hope everyone will tune in next time, and have a great weekend. Happy Supply Chain Day.
Thank you.